in respect of the protest. What we are doing basically is to have an analytical review of the entire process of what happened in terms of the issues around citizenship right to protest, and the issues around peaceful protests, as well as violent protests, particularly how peaceful protests oftentimes transit into violence. Some of the key responsible actors on how these things happen, some of the structural fault lines, on how peaceful protests can easily transit into violence, and of course, the response capability of the state security actors in terms of how they respond to some of these issues, of peaceful protests, as enshrined by the Constitution, which also is a constitutional right of citizens.
Recording in progress.
So there is a perception survey of the entire research process that looks into it in different stages, which of course we've subjected into analysis, with insights and views from respective participants in the course of this series, of conversations and dialogue we've been having on the issues around protest. The overarching objective, for this webinar is how, first and foremost, both state agencies and civil society organizations can work for the common good of society in terms of how we promote our democracy, consolidate on our democracy in a much more peaceful way. We are also interested in allowing democracy to thrive through the expansion of the civic space, citizen participation in the process, not only of elections, but in the process of governance also, so that the voice of the people too can be amplified in the governance space. We're looking at, also yesterday we looked at different strategies on how protests can be interlocuted and ensure that it's peaceful. So today again, we are yet in another series of the dialogue and intervention, and I will invite Drew again, to allow the perception survey. Let's have an insight into the survey before again we'll have Professor Uju's analysis, and then we'll open up the stage for more participation by participants. Thank you so much for taking your time, to participate in our webinar, and we look forward to your very engaging, and robust participation. Thank you so very much. I hereby welcome Professor Uju, to come in. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, DG, again and again for all of your input and support throughout this whole process. So today, before I go on to speak, I would just want to call my colleague, Dahiru Mohammed from the Research and Documentation Department of PRAWA to make the presentation and show the infographics for today. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Prof. Good morning, the DG. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so very much, Prof, for giving me this opportunity once again to do this. Today we'll be looking at these issues around the statistics and facts and figures. So we are looking at the 2024 protest in Nigeria, understanding the statistical facts and the figures. So here we asked basically two questions, just like many of our sections. We asked about the change in the number of protests in 2024 compared to the previous years. And the second question, we asked about if the participants are aware of the key statistics that are related to the protest in Nigeria for 2024. The second one, our intention is to understand if they know what were the reasons, what are the reasons in terms of statistics of issues that are happening across the country that led to the process in the first place. We also want them to also tell us about the statistics around the number of arrests, places that protests are occurring across the country, and so many other statistics. So let's go to the first one. So the first one, here our intention is to assess if the 2024 protests, the number of people that are out to protest differs, it has increased or stayed the same, or is has decreased compared to the previous protests we've witnessed in Nigeria. And this is what the finding is saying. So the chart shows how the number of protests in 2024 compared to previous year. So the majority of the respondents, 71.33%, believe that the number of protests has increased in 2024. In contrast, 16.67% feel that the number of protests has decreased, and 12% think the number of protests has stayed the same. This suggests that most people perceive a significant rise in protest activities this year compared to the past year. Then we'll move to the second question. We asked about awareness of key statistics related to protests in Nigeria for 2024. And here is also what the finding is saying. So the chart reveals the level of awareness about key statistics related to protests in Nigeria for 2024. 33.33% of the respondents are fully aware of the statistics, while 44% have some awareness but may not be fully informed. 22.67% of the respondents are not aware of the statistics at all. So this indicates that while a significant portion of people have some level of awareness about protest statistics, a notable number still lack comprehensive information. Thank you very much, Prof, for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I would today has been indeed will be good that we have a very robust discussion around this whole issue, and I just want to encourage everyone to make sure that they make their own input, given that today we may be reviewing whether we could actually stop today. I mean, but let's just finish this, and then we'll discuss this towards the end. So again, I want to thank the Research and Documentation Department of PRAWA for the perception survey and for the results that they have brought to us in different chunks for us to really reflect on. So for today, what I would say is that just to remind us that the 2024 protests in Nigeria were triggered by widespread dissatisfaction with the economic hardship, insecurity, and government policies. These protests took place across several states and did involve multiple demographic groups, reflecting the nation's deep-rooted socioeconomic and political challenges. Understanding the statistical facts and figures surrounding these protests provides indeed a great insight into their scale, as well as providing insight into the impact of this protest. The first thing I would like to speak on this issue is in relation to scope and spread. You see, the protests were recorded in over 25 states across Nigeria, with the highest concentrations being in Lagos, Abuja, Rivers, Oyo, and Kano states. Now, reports indicate that over 1 million Nigerians participated in the protest, including students, civil society groups, labor unions, and unemployed youth. Cities like Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Abuja saw some of the largest turnout, with estimates of between 100,000 to about 300,000 protesters, gathering in key areas. Now, let me also look at the new issue, and let's also not forget what happened also in places like Kano and some other northern states. Let's look at the second issue I would like to raise, which is about the economic factor. The Nigerian economy was a significant driving factor behind the protests. According to reports, inflation reached an alarming 24.1% by mid-2024. And the removal of fuel subsidies earlier in the year caused fuel prices to surge by over 250%. Unemployment figures, particularly among the youth, were cited as a key issue, with about 43% of Nigerians aged 18 to 35 out of work. The sharp rise in the cost of living, combined with very stagnated wages, created a perfect storm of dissatisfaction. The third point I want to bring to bear is the issue of insecurity and safety concerns. Insecurity was another major theme of the protests, with Boko Haram banditry, farmers' herders conflict escalating, and reports indicating that over 5,000 lives were lost due to violence in the first half of 2024 alone. Kidnapping for ransom also saw a sharp rise, with about 1,200 kidnappings reported between January and June of this year. These issues spawned mass mobilization as citizens demanded that the government address these escalating security threats. Let's now turn to the government response. The government response to the protests was characterized by the deployment of military and police forces. According to the data we have, over 10,000 security personnel were deployed nationwide to contain the protests, leading to clashes in some areas. The clashes resulted in about 150 injuries as has been recorded, and at least 15 fatalities as at the time this was being recorded. And this is according to human rights groups. Arrests were also made with over 100 protesters. As a matter of fact, that figure had increased. If you recall what even during the opening remark of the DG, the statistics that was given as how was publicly made available. Now, it is important that we note these factors. We also note the issues around social media mobilization. We saw that social media played and still plays a crucial role in terms of organizing and amplifying the protests and discussions around it. Platforms like Twitter, like Facebook, like WhatsApp were used to share information and coordinate demonstrations. A study by Data Reporter revealed that social media penetration in Nigeria increased to about 48% in 2024, with over 100 million Nigerians now actively using these platforms. Hashtags like Nigeria Protest 2024 and End Hardship Now gain significant traction, reaching millions and drawing international attention. Now, on the issue of impact on businesses and economy. The protests led to significant economic disruption. Markets and businesses in protest zones were forced to close for days, costing Nigerian economy billions of naira in lost revenue. The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry estimated that the state lost about 20 billion in a single week due to the halted operations. Additionally, transportation networks were heavily impacted, with major highways blocked, causing delays and affecting logistics companies. Now, in relation to international reactions, international organizations, including Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, condemned the excessive use of force by Nigerian security agencies. The protests also drew responses from foreign governments, with the United States and the European Union urging Nigerian government to respect the rights of its citizens to peaceful assembly. Let me conclude, because it would be good that we have more robust discussion around this issue. The 2024 protests in Nigeria were indeed a significant expression of public frustration with the government's handling of economy, with the government's handling of insecurity, with the government handling of major policy decisions. The sheer number of participants, the extent of economic disruption, and the government's response underscores the urgent need for meaningful reforms. Understanding the statistical data behind these protests highlights the depths of dissatisfaction and call for changes that should resonate across the nations. Again, I bring back the same point that have been made in terms of our attitude to protest, in terms of how we utilize the spaces in between protests, and how important it is to dialogue, to engage, and to be able to reflect on the key factors that led to protests in the very first instance. I sincerely believe there is a lot more to be done. I sincerely believe that it does not seem as there is a concerted effort to address the root cause of protest. Protest must be seen as only but a symptom. It will be difficult for us to get to a solution when we see protest as an end itself. We must ask the critical questions: why this protest? And therefore, if we can trace the root cause of the protest, the only way to have a sustainable position in terms of peaceful resolution of these issues is to be able to address the root causes, not just the symptoms. And I hope that as we discuss today, we can also open up our mind to look at what are the very critical ways to address the root causes of protests. And on the other side, what are the main strategies to effectively utilize protests in a positive manner? What does that mean? How can we use protests and in terms of understanding the openings that it provides for us to directly engage and also to encourage participatory discussion and democracy in whatever form it is, and be able to do the needful? I think with that, I would want to pause at this time, DG, and then ask for people to comment and reflect on the issues that were raised, both from the infographics that were presented by the Research and Documentation Department of PRAWA and the comments that I have just made. Thank you again, DG, for the opportunity, sir.
Thank you so very much, Professor Drew, for that insight. I think today we have a count of 18 participants. So we'll open up the stage and to allow for people to make their contributions to this discussion.
And DG, just to also mention, we have Njenje Media, who is also ensuring that we have more people be able to participate in one form or the other what is happening here. So obviously beyond the number that we physically see here. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, great. So let's have discussions. I'll start from Nnamdi Kyotu. You have some points to make here. Mr. Nnamdi.
Yeah. Yes.
And also because of the streaming, if people can use their videos, I think they will prefer it so that people can be seen.
Okay.
Yes. I want to thank you for this opportunity. And issues raised are very important and germane. I want to add that the perception survey wasn't inclusive enough. That's my first observation. It wasn't inclusive and enough. The triggers of the conflict, of the protest, we all know. And how do we see that the root causes are addressed? I want to say that the government should be able to retool its policy. It should also look at increasing its level of communication and consultation across board. I also like to say that the institute, IPCR, through the DG, has been able to be proactive during the crisis. It issued a press statement urging both sides to stick to the rules of engagement. I also want to end by adding that in Abuja FCT, we saw people that were sponsored to counter the protests. And then I want to hear the views of Uju on that. Those that were sponsored to counter the protest in Abuja. I would like to stop here, DG. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kyotu. That was a good one. I think you're talking about protesters and counter-protesters. Do you want to have a go at that, please? I know Dr. Akin should have mentioned that in the earlier part of our discussions on protesters and counter-protesters and all that. But perhaps you want to answer the questions that Nnamdi has asked in respect of that.
Okay, yes, I think we some of the series we discussed this, and basically what we agree is that when you use the protest, use others to counter the protest in that way and infiltrate the gang, it's not the right thing to do. Remember the point I had made earlier. Dealing with the symptoms does not stop it. As a matter of fact, when you do that, what we have come to realize is that it escalates the issue. As a matter of fact, that is how you find the criminal elements getting into the whole process. So again, and this is not the first time we saw it. We saw that during the NSAS protest 2020. So I think that it is a very bad practice and should not continue. So the issue is the only way you can have a sustainable solution is to look at the root causes. That's the point we're making. Is to ensure that you de-escalate the issues and not really make it to be increased in terms of violence, in terms of all sorts of things. And then the whole notion of delegitimizing the process. When you bring issues that are not supposed to, when people start doing all kinds of things, like you bring flags of other countries, that has absolutely nothing to do with the issues that were being raised by the protesters. So I think it's not the right path, and that we, during the previous sessions, we've also discussed this. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Uju, for that. I think that we'll see take more people. We'll see have more time today. Please, let's make contributions to this conversation, please. Mohammed Gaddafi Yusuf, yes, please. And you can put on your video. We want to see you. Mohammed Gaddafi.
Thank you, DG, sir.
Yeah, go on.
I think the main issue here, sir, is addressing the root causes of these violence, some of which are the social inequalities in the nation presently, the hike in fuel prices. These are things that the government should genuinely show effort in reforming them. These things will go a long way in diffusing the tension. This is my own contribution.
Okay, thank you so much, Gaddafi, for that. The issues around the root causes of this protest. Some of these root causes are actually There are structural issues, some historical, and all that. And it will take very deliberate and intentional policies and strategies and actions, to ensure that we'll make a success, out of how we deal with some of these things, because some of the policies are here with us, and how we are able to navigate with it is very critical. I will invite the next person. I can't find any hand here. Maybe I'll use my discretion to just ask research and documentation. Are you, Mr. Namdi talked about some of that in terms of the coverage of the perception survey, that it has some bit of limitation, that it wasn't all inclusive and all that. Research and documentation, will you want to attend to that, answer that question before we invite Dr. Hakim Musire for her own intervention?
Okay, thank you very much, DG. Basically, I'll just take us on the process we utilize in terms of the data collection. So first, what we did was to develop a Microsoft form, and because we started collecting data as this protest was still ongoing up to when the protest ended. So we rolled out these Google Forms, the Microsoft Forms, to different platforms. So hoping that it cut across all the host states in the Federation. And from our demographic data we've analyzed and presented earlier, it also shows that practically we cover the whole of the country. And research like this is something that can also come with limitations, just like every research. So, and part of what we are looking at is also to point out those limitations from this very research and use it as a knowledge gap to be filled in subsequent research that is related to protests in Nigeria. So it's okay and normal for us to have a limitation, and but what we want to do is to use those limitations to improve on other data collection around the same issues. Thank you very much, DG, for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dahiru, for that very brilliant research protocol that was established for the perception survey. Dr. Hakim Musire, I'm very sure that after this webinar series, if you're in Abuja, we should connect.
Yes, sir.
So good morning. Good morning.
And thank you very much for anchoring and facilitating all the way from the very first edition. And thank you very much, Professor Agoma, for all the insightful presentations. Thank you, R&D Department of PRAWA, for the infographics and data analysis. They've been very, very useful and helpful. Then thank you also for giving us a kind of summary of all the various engagements on the editions. And for me, I would like us to look at what role are we playing after this protest? I mean, after this review, as an institution, peace and conflict resolution institution, PRAWA, global rights. So what are the next steps for us? How do we intend to continue to engage with the various stakeholders? Maybe we develop a strategic action plan, and we have an action plan matrix that we even have timelines, and then who is responsible? Okay, so if we say we have, as a result of the review, deduced that there are lots of trainings that we need to do, we put it. And then which of the organization is taking a lead on that for us at the local level, at the state level, at the national level. And then if we are saying, okay, further engagement with the state leadership regarding various legal instruments as read out to us by Prof. and other speakers and other contributors, which organization is responsible, which organization is taking a lead on that, and what are the timelines? Then the last speaker talked about addressing the root cause. hunger. This hunger is still there. In fact, fuel price has increased. If you see the number of people after church now, we just run. I'll quickly run because the number of people that will come for transport money, even me myself, you know. So the hunger is still there. Anger is even prevalent. It's still there. So this is September. We still have 1 quarter in this 2024. October to December. How can we engage? Or let's say mid-September to mid-December. How can we engage robustly, you know, as a coalition? We might also still need to take some post-survey on some other behavioral engagements with the masses. And if possible, yes, 1 million people, not too bad, but if possible, if we can go beyond that number, you know, covering a larger scope to have a post-protest survey again on some of these indices, like the economic indices. The inflation rate is still higher. As at August, it has risen to 34 point something, you know, beyond 24. So what is indices? Are they still there? The insecurity, is it still there? You know, the unemployment, I know it's a process, but I think it would be very good if all of us on this platform can have that action plan matrix, assigning organizations responsible, timelines where we will engage on each of the issues that we want to engage with. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Akin, for that insight. And looking at the post-survey, what exactly do we do, you know, going forward? I think that is very, very key. Those are conversations we'll have maybe on the side after the whole engagement for now. Yes, we're still taking more. We still need more hands-on. Bilkisu Tifi, you want to make some contribution? Bilkisu Bello Tifi. Agnes Azuma. Michael Okonkwo. Theophilus Bauer. We've not heard from you. Okay, Mohammed Maman. Thank you so very much, Mohammed Maman. Are you participating from Medugri? Can we take you, please? Yes, Mohammed Maman. Mohammed Maman is far away in Medugri. So
good morning, all. Good morning, all.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, please. Yes.
Sorry, the connection is very poor. Please forgive me.
Go on. We are hearing you, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. DG. Good morning, all. Your Excellencies. Yeah.
Good morning.
My query is that I'm trying to look at the scenario. I mean that we often skip. I mean the police. They're the one enforcer of the government. They have been given directives by the government. I think it's a bit difficult for them not to kind of engage the protesters in a bad way. Somehow, because I saw the scenario in Kano, the police actually were, sorry to say this, but I felt that the police, according to eyewitnesses, were given instruction to connive with the counter-protesters and engage the peaceful protesters, and it caused chaos. People saw them when having meetings on the street with the counter-protesters. And a lot believed it came from Abuja. I'm not trying to take sides, but I'm just trying to paint a scenario that's a bit difficult to understand. So I'm trying to throw this question to Professor Ma. It's a worrisome angle, and it's happening almost everywhere. We tend not to look at it that way. But I think the police somehow, they don't have much how can I put it? They don't have much freedom. They're all working under directives by the politicians who occupied seats of power across board and represent the federal government at the top. I think there's a critical situation. We have to look at it. Sorry, I'm just want to indicate my professor.
Okay, we're talking about strong institutions, independence of institutions, and of course, issues around the right of protection of citizens and protection of rights, you know, and the role of the critical role of the police as a frontline state agency for that level of protection and law and order. Professor Oju, you want to have a quick say on that?
I can. In short, as he was speaking, quite a lot of other things were actually coming to my mind. This whole notion of the youth and gender dimension. So everything that he has said here is important. It is also important that institutional, when you talk about this weak institution, that becomes quite problematic. As a matter of fact, you can't have a strong democracy when you have very weak institutions. So these weak institutions actually affect the outcome of any democratic experiment. So I don't know whether DG, because I know that on the schedule in terms of the public perception survey, we had a 10th item, and that 10th item is actually about the youth and gender dimension around this protest. And I think it would be good, and maybe if I could call the Research and Documentation Department of PRAWA to just tell us exactly what the statistics is saying. I want to make some few comments, and then we'll kind of wrap it up, including the very important comment that were just made by the last speaker. I'm aware, I'm just thinking that perhaps this would, as we have said, this will be the last for this segment regarding the presentations on protests. And then, as you said, we have to think through in terms of what do we do next. It is also very concerning that another protest is being planned. So we need to be able to proactively think of what do we need to do? How do we need to advise government? How can we make sure that the right thing is done? At least play the part that we need to play. So if you may permit, can we ask the
PRAWA Research and Documentation.
Please, can you just speak to us in relation to the statistics?
The youth and gender dimension.
Yes, just do that, and then I can give my comments on it. And because I'm looking at also time, we have 15 minutes. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, Prof. Thank you very much. The last session on our data collection is around youth and gender dimension. And here we asked 3 questions. First is how actively are youth involved in the protest? The second is on whether the respondent believes there are gender-specific issues related to the participation in protests in Nigeria. And the last is we asked that in their own opinion, do women face more challenges than men when participating in protest? And this is what the finding is saying. The first is on youth involvement in protest, and the finding shows the level of youth involvement in protests in Nigeria. So 55.33% of the respondents believe that youth are very, very active in protest, indicating strong engagements. So 31.33% of the respondents view them as active. Remember, the first one says youth are very active. The second one, which is 31.33%, is saying youth is active and not very. And this brings to a total of 86.66% of our respondents saying youth are active in protest in Nigeria. So this is showing a very substantial participation among youths in protests in Nigeria. However, 8.67% are neutral, and a small percentage of 4.67 consider that youth are inactive, just 4.67. So this suggests that majority of the respondents see youth as playing a significant role in protest, with only a small proportion perceiving them as less involved. On the second question we asked on gender-specific issues that are related to participation in protest in Nigeria. This is what the findings is also saying. We examine perception of gender-specific issues related to participation in protests in Nigeria. 46% of the respondents believe that there are no gender-specific issues, suggesting that they see equal participation regardless of gender. 30.67 think there are gender-specific issues, indicating that they recognize some challenges or disparities based on gender. Meanwhile, 23.33% of the participants, of the respondents, feel that the issue are somewhat present, implying a mixed view on the extent of gender-related challenges. So generally, while a significant portion of acknowledges the presence of a gender issue, a majority believe that such issues do not significantly impact protest participation. So the last question, we asked what are the challenges that are faced by women in protest compared to men. We provided responses such as if there are, yes; if there are none, no; and if they are not sure, maybe it's not something that happens often. So we provided a third option that says sometimes. So the challenges faced by women in protest compared to men: 44.67% of the respondents believe that women face more challenges than men during protest, indicating a substantial perception of gender-specific difficulties. 42.67 feel that these challenges occur sometimes, suggesting that while not always evident, gender-related issues can arise. 12.67% do not believe that women face any more challenges than men, reflecting a minority view that gender does not significantly impact protest experience. So majority of the respondents recognize that women encounter unique challenges in protest, though the extent and frequency of these challenges vary. So on the last part, what the finding is saying is that the challenge is that women face more challenges when compared to men in terms of participating in protests in Nigeria. So basically, this is what we have on the last session. Okay, I'll just stop here now. Thank you very much, Prof. And thank you very much.
Again,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. So, Drew, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I think it's very important that those dimensions were actually picked up. So it is the key thing here is therefore to see the fact that women and young people make a very very clear contributions, and it's important that we also remember this is not the first time. I mean, some of us may already know about the the history of the 1929, the about women riots and all of that. So it's so clearly this is something that it's important to note. So my point here, also from what has been presented, is that in 2024, the 2024 protests were clearly marked by strong participation of both women and youth. These demographics, play a critical role in shaping the narrative. It also plays a critical role even in shaping the focus and the dynamics of the protest, while at the same time highlighting, very distinct grievances and also the power, what I can call collective power in this regard. So for us to understand this dimension of youth and women involvement in the 2024 protest is also important, helpful in terms of shedding light on the evolving socio-political landscape in Nigeria. So what I have here is when I looked at the notion of youth involvement and the driving force around this. So you're looking at the demographic power. We already know that the Nigerian youth, constitute a very high population. So if you look at those who are under 35, we're talking about 70% of the country's population. So I think that that's a point of unemployment and how it impacts actually has a very key issue in terms of what then happens in terms of trying to address this going forward. There is also a statistic that says in 2024, youth unemployment reached 43%, with rising cost of living and lack of job, really making everybody angry. So we need to look at the concept of youth leadership and mobilization. How do we do that? So once we are also looking at how do we get youth influencers to play a prominent role in spreading awareness and mobilizing both online and offline in terms of the positive aspect of what we need. We also need to look at the frustration with government policies, which I'm not going to go into now because it's been discussed. But if you look at the issue of the women's role in protest and these voices of resilience that you can see. So where the women-led movements, I reminded you about 1929 riots. Even in the 2020 NSAS protest, you could see the visibility of women around this issue. So when we look at this youth, look at the women dimension, and then look at also the notion about economic hardship and gender inequalities. So you see that increasingly there is the fact that the Nigerian female labor force participation is actually it's something that we need to look in and see how do we deal with this issue and ensure that poverty and unemployment are really reduced. The problem here is that we are discussing this as against the fuel hike and inflation before the protest. But we know that even after the first wave of the protest in August, more has happened, so which becomes even more problematic. I will also flag the issue about women as victims of insecurity and what that brings, as well as the fight for gender equality. Many of us know that there are certain bills that are even in National Assembly and what that is bringing. So let me conclude by saying, because of time, that when we look at the intersection of youth and women in protest, there are so many things that we begin to bear in mind. And I think we should look very closely at that demography, look very closely at issues about youth and women coalitions, look very closely as how we can actually push for collaboration to showcase the growing political consciousness of these groups. And therefore, if there is political consciousness, then we have to make sure that these people are fully integrated into the political dimensions going forward. Let me conclude on this point and say that indeed in 2024 protests in Nigeria highlighted the critical role that youth and women play in shaping the country's political landscape. Youth, it's important to note that youth with their shared demographic weight and technological savvy drove the protests and will continually drive any protest going forward from here, demanding economic and political reforms that would secure their future. Women, both as leaders and participants, use the protest also as a platform to demand some of these other issues around gender equality, economic justice, and security. Together, this group form a very powerful coalition, and please note what I'm about to say. They form a very powerful coalition that made it clear to government that the voices of the marginalized could no longer be ignored. The protest was not just a call for immediate change, but a declaration that Nigeria's future must include the perspective and needs of both youth and women. I hope everybody's heard me clearly. So this is the undercurrent. So we don't see that, but I'm telling you truly that what you see playing out is actually a call for action. And this is saying both in their political discussion, but in whatever thing that we want to do going forward. Remember the concept of looking at the root causes and making sure that we have sustainable solutions. And please, that sustainable solution must bring to bear importance of constructive engagement of women and youth. And I think it's on that note that I want to stop and call the DG to take over the mic. Thank you, DG.
Thank you so very much, Professor Drew. Also, thank you, Dr. Akin Musiri, for still talking about the evolving nature of women and youth, in protest movement to further add vent to what Professor Drew has been saying. I think that what we've done thus far, first and foremost, will also be to disseminate widely the perceptions of to the respective stakeholders, both online, softline, real life, everywhere we can disseminate this perceptions of on these protests. I think it is important that we send it widely to the different places